We have just rounded 3,000 subscribers, which is insane for my little cringe B-movie channel. It is more people than live in Iceland's 12th biggest city. And to celebrate, I'm going to share which are my favorite YouTube channels. This video is not going to be in the usual top 10 format, but instead I'll just run through some of my favorite things YouTube.
That is my videotape recorder. That is... oh, I like that.
I will start out with 3 channels, which like mine are mostly about movies. Though movie reviewers are a dime a dozen on YouTube, it is still quite hard to find someone that you generally agree with or that is actually knowledgeable. But the guys running these 3 channels are awesome in each their way. First we have the Good Bad Flicks channel. Which makes mini documentaries about all your favorite cult movies like Mortal Kombat, Sorority House Massacre and Blade. The research of this guy is crazy good. And just like me, he also has a very dry sense of humor.
I love you, my little puppet friends. Why won't you get in the case?
I especially enjoy his Exploring series, where he takes a deep dive into the production of selected movies and on how some of them have been butchered by the producers, like disturbing behavior. This guy deserves tons and tons of views, so he can continue creating awesome content. So I recommend that you check out his video on one of my favorite movies of all time, The Thing. The second channel I would like to recommend is Horrible Reviews, which was actually taken down by YouTube for a while with zero explanation, but I'm glad to have the channel back. The guy who runs Horrible Reviews is super chill and cool.
What's up, gangsters, and welcome back to this yearly tradition where I share a bunch of interesting movies with you guys.
And when watching his videos, it almost feels like you're sitting together with him in his couch for a movie night. His reviews are mainly focused on horror movies and often obscure, artsy foreign ones. His most popular series is focused on the most disturbing movies ever, but he also talks about all sorts of weird and old art house movies, and he is super knowledgeable. While I have been following these 2 channels for years, this final movie channel is a recent favorite of mine, and it is The Critical Drinker. He is that delusional drunk guy at the pub who sits alone in the corner complaining loudly about everything and nothing. Except this drinker is an expert at argumentation, and his breakdowns of movies and characters are legendary.
For me, Blade Runner 2049 truly is the iPhone of movie sequels. A logical and incremental, if rather unspectacular development on what came before. Don't get me wrong, it does what it does competently well, and there's no particular reason to hate on it. It's just that I'm not sure what it does is actually worth doing.
The Scotsman especially enjoys butchering modern movies, which often have thrown all character development and logic out the window, replacing it with big themes like race and gender. It took me a bit to get used to his slurred voice, but now I love his sarcasm and biting criticism. While we're at the review channels, let's look at 2 channels which review video games. And it won't be the usual suspects, IGN and GameSpot. My favorite video game channel is GmanLives, as he has reviewed every single one of my favorite first-person shooters ever. He has reviewed everything from Duke Nukem 3D and Blood to Max Payne and Return to Castle of Wolfenstein. I mostly agree with the guy, and though he wasn't all that kind to one of my all-time favorite first-person shooters of all time, Far Cry, I still watch his content. The second gaming channel is the Act Man, who is as 90s as one can possibly get, and that is a huge compliment. This guy's hilarious.
Is this just like a cheap reboot made to capitalize off of people's nostalgia?
And he really excels at referencing 80s and 90s action movies. I also love his over-the-top acting, editing and storytelling. The Eggman seems genuinely excited in his videos, and it is very contagious. I'm not into all this Halo and Call of Duty stuff that he makes a lot of videos on, but I can highly recommend his videos on the decline of gaming and this video on how Blizzard became arrogant and started bowing to China.
And that is why Warcraft 3 Reforged is so terrible. I wish I never played a Blizzard game ever.
On to some awesome music channels. It probably comes as no surprise to you guys that I love retrowave music, and I actually listen to it several hours each day at work. My two favorite retrowave channels are NewRetroWave and ThePrimeThanatos. Both channels are quite similar in that they release these hour-long mixtapes with the best recent retrowave music and in their use of synthwave and vaporware aesthetics. In addition to these features, ThePrimeThanatos has this really great radio station where you can chat with like-minded listeners. Another thing I love about the retrowave community on YouTube is the trend where retrowave songs are combined with cool old school movies, like in this video where the Terminator has been used to create a music video for the Perturbator song Tech Noir. Also, the long forgotten movie Career Opportunities has been remixed with the Midnight's fantastic song Sunset. And of course I cannot mention retrowave without mentioning Carpenter Brute. They're crazy good at finding awesome looking old school horror movies and then mixing them with their own music and aesthetics. They have even made their own original killer called Leatherteeth. Definitely check out their channel. With all my content on rhythm games, ninja movies and traveling, it can come as no surprise that I also subscribe to a few channels focused on Japanese culture. Japan is just so interesting because they always seem to have thought of everything. And even watching a movie about a Japanese moving company is interesting. Seriously, you need to watch this movie by Rachel and June. Your mind will be blown. The two Japan channels I enjoy watching the most are ONLYinJapan and Paolo from Tokyo. ONLYinJapan is run by this wonderfully awkward guy who reminds me all too much of Daniel from the Karate Kid. He just makes awesome content in the form of mini documentaries, like when he explores the history of capsule hotels, vending machines, Wagyu beef, and the world's most expensive mangoes, and much more. Paolo from Tokyo's channel is terrific if you're looking for travel advice, and I can highly recommend his 101 things to do in Tokyo, which is almost as good as my top 10 about going to Japan. Else I also quite enjoy his Day in the Life series, where both Day in the Life of a Japanese ramen chef and a Day in the Life of a Japanese manga creator can be recommended. The manga creator is a perfect bridge to all the anime channels I will recommend now. Well, actually there's only one, and that is the Super Eyepatch Wolf. This guy just has the most interesting voice on YouTube, and he can talk about anything and I'll watch it. I ran into him by coincidence while looking for videos about the terrifyingly awesome anime Perfect Blue. His video essay on the movie had me immediately hooked on his channel.
You might have the distinct sense that you know me. And you do. That is to say, you know the fictional, highly scripted, highly edited character that the actual person behind this channel uses to voice his ideals. I'm not even really speaking to you right now. I am reading text off a Word document into a microphone.
And these days I watch all of his videos regardless of whether they're about Shenmue, wrestling or some other topic that I would normally not be interested in. The Super Eyepatch Wolf does these seasonal videos on his favorite things, which is actually what inspired me for this video. Another great video essay channel is NerdWriter1, who goes into topics like why are there so few smartphones in popular movies and how David Fincher works his cameras. This guy also has an excellent voice and he has created tons of high quality content. Unfortunately though, his content the last year or so has been missing the insightfulness and passion of his earlier videos. And now to something a bit more sinister: surveillance. Since the Cambridge Analytica scandal, I think that just about everyone is aware that we are being watched 24/7 by the governments and by the big tech companies. The Hated One gives deep and insightful walkthroughs of everything from how a VPN connection works, how Google and Facebook are lying to us, to how China is exporting censorship using its financial muscles. What puts The Hated One above and beyond is his visual style, which is very hacker-esque. What I love about the channel is that it does not lower itself into conspiracy theories and paranoia. Instead, everything is really well researched and reasoned. I cannot recommend The Hated One enough. In the more fun department, I have found a channel about water slides. How fun is that? This guy Gezen Adam seems to be traveling the world just to visit water parks. I think it must be a slight bit awkward for him to go around water parks with a GoPro strapped to his forehead, especially when going on rides with random strangers. Whenever I watch one of his videos, I want to go to a water park myself, but unfortunately in Denmark it is usually too cold. Another great thing about the channel is that it has the most clickbaity thumbnails out there. Now it's time to slide on to the next channel. I will finish off my recommendations with my favorite do-it-yourself channel, and that is Strange Parts. The mantra of the channel is that you should not let yourself limit by the design visions of large companies.
Do you think it's possible to add a headphone jack to an iPhone 7?
If you want a headphone jack on your iPhone, why not make it yourself?
I finally put it together without breaking anything. Check this out. Okay, here's the speaker. And here is the headphones.
On this channel we visit hacker spaces, Chinese factories, gold markets and so much more. Scotty's enthusiasm is contagious and he makes you want to explore the limits of tech yourself. Of course I follow more channels than the mentioned channels, and several of them are to keep up with my work as the field of statistics and machine learning keeps evolving at an insane pace. But I will not bore you with these channels. So that's all for this video. And again, thanks for subscribing and leaving comments. It makes releasing videos frequently so much more fun. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you later.